we had messed up an order the week before to one of our local schools, and this is our reputation. I showed up early the next Friday just to see how things were going, and we were not on track to be on time. My neck was clearly red, and I drop kicked an empty fry box.
I've learned from a lot of bad leadership, if you will, toxic workplaces, what not to do. So when you see a leader do that in the way you felt about it, if you're empathetic enough and can learn from that, that's good, versus modeling that behavior.
I lost my composure and clearly frustrated for a valid reason, but it didn't do any good.
Ever get one of those meeting invites that makes your stomach turn? The subject line looked harmless enough. Summer promotion planning session. Present your plans to the marketing VP. Except the VP was Edward, and Edward had a reputation. He was a brilliant marketer, but a volatile leader. The kind of executive who could flip a room's energy like a light switch. He'd been known to be verbally abusive to his team when someone didn't know the answer or when the work didn't meet expectations. I told my peers to have their facts together. The meeting could get rough. But because of a scheduling conflict, I attended virtually. And so I logged on and saw my peers all sitting in the quiet room looking apprehensive. And Edward storms in. He sat down and asked who wanted to go first. And one brave soul raised his hand. Before the guy could even finish his first sentence, Edward started peppering him with questions. He was condescending and he was escalating everything. Then he stopped him in mid-sentence and said, "Either you are incompetent or you don't care. Which is it?" I felt like I was watching a shark that smelled blood. If you've ever been the person expected to hold it all together while everything around you is falling apart, this one's for you. I spent 30 years in corporate leadership making every mistake in the book, some of them twice. I'm Preston Poore, and if you're a leader who's ever felt in over your head but too proud to say it, you're in the right place. This is PQ. Welcome. Quick recap. Last episode was about the burnout trap, running so fast that you don't notice what you're losing. Learning that rest is not retreat, your pace is not your identity, and God's provision often arrives in the morning after you decide to hold on. But here's the tension that waits for you once you've caught your breath. You walk back into the room and everyone expects you to be calm, the calm one, the steady hand, the leader who never flinches. And some days you can pull that off. But other days, you're holding it together with duct tape and deep breaths. That's today's tension, and it's the one that closes this arc. So episode 8, appearance versus reality. Every leader carries an unspoken contract. When things get hard, you stay calm. When people panic, you lower the temperature. When the room fills with chaos, you're the one who steadies it. And sometimes you can do that, but other times, you're the one creating the chaos, or absorbing everyone else's, or performing composure while your insides are doing somersaults. So here's the real problem. When composure is just performance, people eventually see through it. They don't trust the act. They trust the person who's honest about the tension and still chooses to lead through it. Appearance asks, do I look like I have it all together? Reality asks, am I actually leading from a stable place? Composure isn't the absence of pressure. It's a decision about how you respond to it. Hear this. Edward didn't have composure. He had power, and there's a big difference. Looking back on how I managed my composure under pressure, I exercised some poor judgment. And now from the home office in Atlanta, Georgia, the top 5 signs you're faking composure at work. Number 5, you tell your team, I'm fine, but your eye has been twitching since the last board meeting 3 days ago, and HR thinks you're winking at them. Number 4, your calm voice is just a regular voice, but slower. It's like GPS rerouting you after you miss the exit. Recalculating. Number 3, you take a deep breath before responding to an email and your coworker asks you if you're doing Le Mans. You tell them it's a leadership technique and they don't buy it. Number 2, you excuse yourself from a meeting to grab water and don't come back for 45 minutes. Your team assumes that you fell in the break room. You were just in your car listening to a podcast about managing stress. This podcast specifically. And the number one sign you're faking composure at work, you write a thanks for your patience in an email when what you really mean is, I've been staring at this thread for 6 hours and I still don't know what you're asking me. You heard the cold open. Here's the rest of the story. The subject line was innocent enough. Summer promotion planning session. Directors like me were expected to present our summer plans to the marketing vice president, Edward. No description, no direction, just show up and present. Now, Edward was brilliant, accomplished, one of the best marketers that I knew, but he was also volatile. He could fly off the handle at any moment. He'd been known to verbally abuse his team when someone didn't know an answer or when the work didn't meet his standard. I told my peers to have their facts together. The meeting, it could be a rough one. Now, you already know how it started. That first brave soul, the shark that smelled blood, but Edward wasn't done. After he stopped that guy mid-sentence, the room went silent. The guy's face went bright red, and out of fear, he didn't respond. Edward turned to the next person, same treatment. She got flustered, couldn't get her words out. Same line to her. You two, either you're incompetent or you don't care about our business. Which is it? Well, he went around the table. Every single person got the same response. Then he stood up. He said, I think I've made my point. Everyone had better know their facts next time. He stormed out as fast as he came in. Well, I was spared. I attended virtually and Edward never called on me. The next day, I told my manager what happened. He'd already heard the feedback. He assured me Edward's behavior would be addressed, but something stuck with me. Meetings don't have to be like that. They can be productive, effective, and constructive, and still treat people with respect and dignity. So I had a wild idea. Why not volunteer to lead the next planned presentation and show that there's a better way? I told my manager. He paused. What will you do differently? Well, I said I'd tell people up front what was expected of them. I'd create an environment where ideas get exchanged and feedback is given. And then he smiled. He said, I like it. Let's try it on our next go-around. Well, then I reached out to the other VPs and aligned on the format. I built a plan report template that laid out exactly what was expected, and I facilitated a meeting with our cross-functional partners in a positive environment. And guess what? The feedback was great. One note even came back from someone who also worked for Edward. She said, the plans shared today were excellent and definitely instill confidence for success against this critical initiative. Thank you for all of the collaboration. Well, I knew that there was a better way to get results, just by treating people with dignity and respect. Edward used his authority to tear people down, and I didn't have a title. I didn't need it. What I had was a decision. Composure isn't a mask. It's a choice. And a positive, respectful culture isn't fluff. It's essential for teamwork and success. Most leaders I know go to church on Sunday and show up on Monday like they've never heard a word of it. I was one of them. The Discipled Leader Apprenticeship exists to close that gap. One-on-one discipleship that shapes how you actually lead, not just what you believe. If you're tired of living two separate lives, visit PrestonPoor.com. Hey, welcome, Chris. Glad to have you here. This is the second appearance for you on P Cubed Season 2. We're going to talk a little bit different subject. We talked about conflict management last time, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about composure. But before we get going, before we start talking about this idea of leading under pressure, appearance versus reality, the idea of I'm supposed to be calm, but I'm not, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. So started at Chick-fil-A 32 years ago, first job, and loved it. And so that's what I've been doing for the last really 2.5 decades. Owner-operator with Chick-fil-A here locally in Marietta. Also have the Chick-fil-A inside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And so, I've had a career with selling chicken. It has been incredible. As Drew and Kathy would say, we're not in the chicken business. We're in the people business. And that's truly what I love about it. Yeah. Pouring into the next generation, developing purpose with these young men and women. Yeah. It's a true blessing out.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know you do a great job with all that stuff. But let's just jump into these questions here for the audience so we can just kind of get an understanding about your perspective on it.
Love it.
So have you ever been in a room where one leader's lack of composure changed the entire culture of a meeting or a team, and what did it look like?
Yeah, when I read this, I laughed a little bit. I was like, that leader was me. So my context really is I'm always the loudest person in the room. I'm the owner operator, right? So I sit in this room with my directors and we're talking about stuff and I'm sitting over there. To your point about composure, I'm just kind of trying to keep myself quiet.
Sure.
For me, the biggest challenge as a business owner really is actually running a profitable business. I know that sounds terrible to say it, but I love all the aspects that lead up to profit. But when it boils down to it, I'm just hoping that we turn the right profit. So when you asked this question, I thought immediately like, oh my gosh, there have been so many moments where underneath I am stewing going, oh my gosh, our intentions did not align with our actual actions. Yeah. And I'm thinking about for myself, my composure has really got to show right now. And there's been times that it didn't. My team has informed me multiple times, hey, Chris, are you upset? I'm like, why? Your neck is red.
They can see.
You literally, it's like, interesting.
Yeah.
And so I can think of many redneck moments, not in Jeff Foxworthy sort of a way, but redneck moments for me where my composure was, I have done a poor job.
Yeah.
Or we have done a poor job and I've done a poor job of making decisions to change the direction. And so I immediately thought of myself more than being in a corporate setting or being in a place where there's a bad boss.
Yeah.
I was more convicted around I was that boss who had to show that composure in those moments.
Yeah. So when I think of poor job, I think about excellence because of Preston poor.
Yeah,
but
right.
you know, however you want to use the word, that's fine. Just kidding. But do you have a specific instance where maybe that you lost your cool and then how it impacted everybody else?
Yes. So this individual, and I'll use his name. I love this because I'll get him to watch this Sunday.
Okay.
His name's Daniel.
Got to sign a release.
Right, sign a release.
Okay.
Daniel Mitchell, right?
Okay.
So Daniel Mitchell. I had been at this restaurant for about 2 years, and Daniel was a young leader who wanted to be an operator, and he accomplished that goal. He's an operator currently with Chick-fil-A up in Boston. And we had messed up an order the week before to one of our local schools, and this is our reputation. We need to make sure that we're consistent, we're on time, all that kind of stuff. Well, I showed up early the next Friday just to see how things were going, and we were not on track to be on time. And my neck was clearly red, and I drop kicked an empty fry box. Like I kicked it.
Wow.
And when I did, my foot went through the box and I hobbled around like a peg-legged pirate. And literally he's over there just trying not to laugh. And about 5 minutes later, we were both laughing about me being frustrated and the realities of the fact that we didn't follow through. So still to this day, I'll ask Daniel, like, hey, you drop kicking in your boxes lately? Like, how are you doing in your leadership? How is it going in your team? And we have that conversation where I lost my composure and clearly frustrated for a valid reason, but it didn't do any good. It's not like Daniel looked back and, oh man, your leadership there really helped me. He really learned from a really poor mistake.
Well, sometimes that's the important thing is I've figured out in my career, I've learned from a lot of bad leadership, if you will, toxic workplaces, what not to do. So when you see a leader do that and the way you felt about it, if you're empathetic enough, and can learn from that, that's good, versus modeling that behavior. And that happens a lot in the workplace where they see Chris and then it trickles down to Daniel, then it trickles down to, whoever else. And so that's how do you break that cycle?
Absolutely.
So can you think about a time where you could have lost your composure, but you didn't and you led well? You can't. Okay, we'll go to the next question. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding. So tell me about a time. Do you remember a time when you were tempted to lose it, like the frustration built up so much, but because of the maturity that you have now as a leader with the groups that you have, and you've got to be cool. I know there's probably a lot of activity going on the inside, but do you remember a time where you said, nope, I've got to maintain composure here and let's keep the ship going?
I can think to a couple different times that this happened is that in our world, this consistency of guest experience is our reputation. And I saw that wasn't happening. And I walked up and instead of pointing out what was wrong is I asked the question, how can I help? And just the very calm, how can I help? No other coaching, no other insight, no other input, no other leadership, but just said, how can I help?
That's great.
And then stepped in and helped. Then once the temperature died down, was able to then say, hey, ask some questions. How did that go? What do we do differently? And that was, I can think to the different temperature literally of my neck in that moment. Like, how was I approaching this? And I know we'll talk a little bit more about this, but really it was a heart change that had to happen. Right? It wasn't a head change. It was a heart change that needed to happen.
So good. Well, let's go there real quick. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing when it comes to this composure piece is where is it coming from? Like, where is the composure coming from? Is it coming from a desire to be seen in a certain way? Or is it from actually a designed reality? Oh, wait. If I have been created, which I believe I have, and you believe you've been created, well, then I need to go to my creator to understand this. I need to dive deep into, why is this bothering me? Why is this not bothering me? And as I think about, how do I have a sustainable leadership trajectory? How do I have a sustainable marriage? How do I have a sustainable life? It is going, I need to go to my creator. And so if I have an Apple Watch, I don't go to Samsung to ask, how do I use this watch? And so often I think in business and leadership and marriage and parenting, I go to the wrong thing. I went to the wrong thing, and others go to the wrong individual or the wrong creator, if you will, trying to get answers that can only be fully and finally answered by your creator. Yeah. So I think about the different heart that I had in that moment. It was truly going, I want to live out our purpose. Our purpose in the restaurant is to faithfully serve our team and our community. Like, am I trying to faithfully serve here, or am I trying to prove a point?
Yeah.
And too often, I myself and others were trying to prove points or keep face, which is an external perspective, trying to get inward versus an inward perspective becoming external.
That's so good. That's the idea of this formation and then function that I talk a lot about with folks. Crisis is helps our character to be revealed.
Right.
It's not formed in the crisis sometimes.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of these circumstances, what you mentioned about drop kicking the box, well, that was not a great thing, but you learned from it, and that developed your character to a point, and then you start having this heart change, and then you start to mature, and you form. And you're more about, how is this going to be handled with the person. What I love most about what you said too is that you paused in that moment. You could have reacted. You said, can I help? And then you went and helped, and then you had a conversation afterward versus reacting to the situation. And that makes all the difference as you do it. What else?
Yeah, the model that we leverage is the HEART model. And part of this HEART is ours, respond with courage versus react with fear. And that is the heart of a leader.
Yeah,
do you choose to respond versus react?
That's so good. One of my mentors, Jim Kouzes, that wrote the book, The Leadership Challenge, they say that leadership is an affair of the heart. Right? And so that's how we treat people. So, but let's get off this heart stuff. Let's move on to something else. Just kidding. When you're under real pressure and there's a gap between what people see on the outside and what's happening on the inside, how do you start to manage that gap? Because you've got the redneck. Speak not only what Chris would do, but how do you coach and teach and train the people that are around you to respond and close that gap? Yeah,
and going back to this idea of, am I responding or am I reacting? And that's the first question. Am I responding? Responding is a predetermined choice. You know, emergency responders pull up on an accident and they don't freak out. Oh my gosh, there's blood, that's a broken leg, what's going on? They just pull out their training. And in that moment is, have I been preparing myself to say, this is exactly why I get paid? Because if there was no problems, well, there's no need for leadership. We would just pay everybody minimum wage, and you push the buttons, you do whatever you need to do. And so as I think about it, I was like, man, this is the reason why I exist. I get to step into the fray. As a matter of fact, what we call our training development program in the restaurant is called The Forge. And The Forge is creating an environment that's hot. It's heating up your character to be moldable, right? To be melded into something useful. And so you can only have meaning is when you take this blob of clay, metal, whatever it might be in this analogy, and then melt that down, get it malleable so that you can then use it. And so as I think about this, is I don't really want to manage anger. I love the concept of anger management. I'm like, ooh, I want to get anger away, but I want to manage tensions. Oh, what's the tension here? The tension here is, you're not doing as well as you could because I know your potential, and we have someone who's getting a bad experience on the other side. So I got to manage both of these. So I don't need to, destroy you and say this person deserves better. And at the same point in time, also, these are human beings that they understand that mistakes happen. I got to manage those tensions, but remove the problems. So as we teach that, we teach people, we teach our leaders, you need to manage the tensions and you need to solve the problems. As an example, is a line a tension to manage, or is a line a problem to solve?
A line in the restaurant.
Yeah, a line in the restaurant, right? A line of people. Well, that's a tension to manage. If you get rid of the line, you have no customers. Well, how about a long line? Well, now that's a problem to solve. And just that moment going, oh my gosh, I have never thought of it that way. That's this expression of wisdom. That's just a much better question than the initial question is, which is, how do you manage this? It's like, It's a little bit deeper than that.
I love
right?
that.
So it's a
wise.
lot deeper.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So wise. I thought this was an interesting question. That's why I wrote it. Is
Touche.
Just touche. Is there a difference between composure and emotional suppression? Does that make sense to you at all?
Absolutely. And
Where's the line on that then?
yeah, and I love that. Like, where is the line? The line is, what is your ultimate goal? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to get healthy? Am I trying to get healthy? Or am I trying to save face? What's driving my behavior? And I can think of so many people, so many examples. I'm closing my eyes going, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. Is this person trying to serve? Is this person trying to help? Or are they just trying to save face? Sitting in a meeting and someone points out the reason why they didn't get something done, which was essentially a bunch of excuses. And then when you call them on it, they're like, well, those are reasons. And I'm like, if you have a boiling pot of reasons and you boil it all down, you know what's left over? Bunch of excuses.
That's right.
What is the heart of that individual? Yeah. For me personally, I really struggled with this because I was scared to death on the outside of people seeing that I wasn't good enough. Yeah. This concept of being rejected, the concept of not measuring up, that external pressure was so great. So one of the things I think about when I think about this question is I really encourage leaders to go, hey, let's slow down and actually, what is it that you're struggling with? Are you struggling with that you feel like you're rejected, you're not enough? Because that's more than likely driving the behavior way more than the deadline didn't get met specifically on whatever the initiative is. That's just the fruit that's really looking back to a root issue of not measuring up. And went back to school for executive coaching and learning how to ask better questions so that someone can have that safe place to go, yeah, how did you know that there was something more than that? I'm like, well, the good news is that, lemons come from lemon seeds from lemon trees. So if you plant a lemon seed, it's what you're going to grow. So if you plant a fear seed, you're going to
bear the
fear
fruit of that.
Right? You're going to bear that fruit. And so the good news is you're not crazy. I think a lot of people, and I know I did for the longest time, I was like, am I the only one dealing with this? I feel like I'm crazy. So
what an awesome opportunity to shape the next generation. If you can have those conversations early on with teens, early 20s or wherever they are on that, working in a restaurant environment, which is tough as it is anyway, but be able to have those conversations and affirm them and those things, and then try to help them and coach them and correct them so they're not having a challenge later on in their career because they drove things out of fear. They were doing behavior was out of fear or something else. And some of those things don't change over time. And that's what creates all the toxic workplaces, the toxic managers and those things. But so hats off to you on that. Tell me about a time when you chose to lead differently than the example that was set for you. What gave you the courage to do that?
I'm going to take a little bit different perspective on this, and I'm going to go back to my ex-stepdad.
Okay.
So I'm going back to the example that was really given to me from the age of 5 to 13.
Okay.
And what, unfortunately, he led from a place of fear, led from a place of external motivation, not internal character. And it took me 2.5 decades to figure this out, is that I personally was leading that way. And I got to a place of brokenness of understanding, wait, I am scared of blank. Ooh, I don't like to say that. Why don't I like to say that? Well, I don't think I'm scared. I mean, I'm a leader and, I'm in charge and whatever that may be, or I'm a good husband. I'm a good dad. It's the mask.
Right.
And realizing, wait, this is not the design of the creator. This is not the internal purpose that I have been created for. And so looking at that going, I actually now have a lot of grace understanding where he was coming from. That's what you were given.
Yeah.
And you did the best you could. But I'm going to do better than that now. I'm not going to manage this. I'm going to actually slow down and ask some different questions. Read the book Soul Keeping by John Ortberg. Okay. I give a plug to this. I have copies sitting on my desk. I'll just hand to people. The principle of this was about 10 years ago. Sat down and read that book, and I realized my soul was not at rest. My soul was not in line with my actions. And that dichotomy, right, is what was creating this frustration, this not being able to measure up feeling, this I'm never going to be enough. Yeah. So I can really look back and go, gosh, I'm going to do this differently.
Good. That's, I think it's, and I love you're so accessible, man. You're giving books away and all that stuff at work and working through that. So that's good. And the impact, not only work, but it is the family environment too sometimes that come up on that. And so we all have a little bit of baggage, and we have to figure out how do we improve on that. So we're going to wrap up our conversation real quick. I'm going to leave 2 questions, one that you've seen, the other one I'll ask you just off the cuff.
Yeah.
For the leader listening who feels like they're faking it every day, what would you tell them?
You're at a crossroads.
Why?
You get to decide, are you going to go with your intentions or are you going to go with your actions? And when I was 39 years old and I made that decision, like I've got to decide, am I going to keep going with what I'm intending and what I want, but it's not reality? Or am I going to live in reality? A bike that thinks it's a boat is going to be really frustrated when you get to the end of the dock and you drop it in the water and be like, why is this boat not? This boat's terrible, right? This boat stinks. It's like, that's not a boat.
Yeah. Right.
And so I had to decide, and every individual has to decide, are you going to be in line with the truth, right? If I want to go to Florida from Georgia and I get on I-75 North, I got really good intentions.
Yeah, right.
But I'm not going to make it. And I can even say I've got my bag pack and I've got a bathing suit and I've got my beach chair and sunscreen. It's like, hey, brother, I love you, but you ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
And so I look into your point. I look at the next generation. I ask the questions like, that makes sense. But what is the truth? And so I would tell an individual, you need to stop in this moment, slow down enough to go, what is it you're actually wrestling with? And more than likely, it's some aspect, and I'm learning this, it's you're trying to numb from something, you're trying to blame others, you're trying to control it, or you're shaming yourself. And the reality is you've got to decide, am I going to continue to do those 4 things, or am I going to deal with what is underneath that, right? Am I going to keep this coping strategy, or am I going to go with, I've got to stop? And I've got to see what reality is. If you told me this desk was yellow, I would say, Preston, I love that thought, right? But it's black. All right. And so that's what I would encourage someone is just to stop and say, wait, this desk is black. That's the truth. Now wrestle with whatever you need to wrestle with to figure out how you need to change this thought process. And it might take a while. I've come up with this theory. It's not anything I can give empirical data on, but if you've been doing something for 10 years, it's going to take you about a year to get out of it. You've been doing something for 2 decades, it's going to take you about 2 years to get out of it. And so for me, at the age of 39, I realized I've been about almost 3 decades of this thinking, this I'm not enough, I'm never going to measure up.
Right.
And it did. It took me a couple of years to get out of it. So I would encourage people to trust the process. You're leaning into a process. You're not leaning into a magic wand. And if anyone that's watching this is an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs have this tendency of thinking, oh, I can fix this faster.
Yeah, right.
Maybe, but you can't skip the steps, right? You can't, you have to do the work. And so I would encourage people, just do the work and slow down, give yourself some grace. I don't know about you, but I used to be terrible at giving myself grace. Right?
I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
It's okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I give grace to
Not
others.
me. Yeah.
But then I give myself so judgmental. And so be curious, not judgmental with yourself. Trust the process and growth will happen. It will.
Great. Hey, thank you for all that. A bonus question for our audience. We've got 8 Super Bowl size events. That's what they're telling us. And you help operate the Chick-fil-A at the Benz, right? So tell me a little bit about the preparation and this idea of composure. How is that impacting the way you're working with your team? I know before we went on air today to do the recording, you were talking about this is not a mountain we've ever climbed before. We're not sure.
Right.
And that's okay. But tell us a little bit about that, how you're handling that.
Well, to your point, 8 Super Bowl size events with rules that we have never experienced. So just a slight complexity reality. We cannot have a single logo on a single thing inside the stadium because we're not a sponsor.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So talk about composure. It's like, what in the world? So legitimately on Monday, so our first event is on this Monday, so a couple of days from now, we will have bags that have no logos, boxes that have no logos, cartons that have no logos on our uniforms, no logo on the stand. How are we even going to let people know what we're selling? Honestly, we don't know. Now, we've got some ideas and we've got some plans and we've got some resources and we're going to try to push this envelope as much as we can. But it's requiring me to look at the team and go, guys, I've never been here before. You've never been here before.
Yeah.
But we're going to be thermostats, not thermometers. We're going to set the temperature. We're going to climb this mountain, by golly, and we're going to sell some chicken. Just not really sure what it looks like. So it is required a lot of hold things loosely, plan, but you got to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. So it's a challenge that I have never experienced before.
Yeah.
And if I'm really honest, I'm like, that is dumb. Like what? Like
why?
Why? You know, like, and so I've just got to lean into that. I can't let that be my temperature that I'm setting. I have to. I remember when I'm sitting in a meeting, I'm going, all right, I think this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
All right, hey guys, this is dumb to me too, but we can't do anything about it. How are we going to respond?
Right.
And so it's going to be a wild ride. We're going to have a lot of fun.
So good. It reminds me though that labels and brands, while they're important, the fans will know that it's a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich when they bite into it.
Yeah.
They will know it's a cup of Coca-Cola when they sip on the Coke.
Right.
They'll know it's a waffle fry when they do that. And so they'll know what's on the inside because that's quality stuff right there. Right. And so take that analogy on it. Chris, you've been a lot of fun today, a blessing. That's why the producers, I wanted to have you back. They said no.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring you back on because I thought you could improve what you were doing and you brought it today.
Gracious.
No, you did last time too. So
gracious.
It's good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you.
Thanks. Chris, thanks for sharing your valuable insights today. But here's what keeps coming back to me. The leaders we trust most aren't the ones who never feel the storm. They're the ones who stay steady inside of it. And there's one story that shaped how I think about that more than any other. There's a moment in Mark chapter 4 that I keep coming back to. Jesus and the disciples in a boat. The storm rolls in. It's not drizzle, it's a furious squall. The waves are crashing over the sides. The boat's filling up with water. But Jesus is asleep. He's on a cushion in the back of the boat, asleep. The disciples wake him up in panic and say, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Well, he gets up, he rebukes the wind, and says to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Everything stops, dead calm. Then he looks at them and asks, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Here's what gets me about this story. The disciples weren't wrong about the storm. The storm was real. The danger was real. Their fear made sense. But Jesus wasn't rattled. Not because he didn't see the storm, because he knew who he was and what he carried. And that's the difference between composure as performance and composure as identity. The disciples were reacting to the circumstances. Jesus was operating from something deeper. I think about Edward's meeting. He walked in like a storm. Everyone in the room was a disciple in a sinking boat. They were afraid because the person who was supposed to lead them was the one creating the chaos. When I volunteered to lead the next meeting, I wasn't the calmest person in the room. I was nervous. But I'd made a decision about who I wanted to be in that moment. Not Edward, not the guy who tears people apart, the guy who builds something together. Composure rooted in faith isn't about pretending the storm doesn't exist. It's about knowing who's in the boat with you. Quiet. Be still. That's not just a command to the waves. It's an invitation to the leader who forgot they don't have to control the storm. They just have to trust the one that can. Well, so what do we do with all this? I'm not going to leave you sitting in the tension. Here are 3 things that I wish someone had told me. Someone told me a long time ago. Number 1, composure is not performance. It's a decision. I used to think that calm leaders were born that way. Unshakable DNA. Turns out that composure is a choice that you make before the moment arrives. You decide in advance who you're going to be when the pressure hits. The leaders I admire most aren't the ones who never feel the tension. They're the ones who feel it and choose anyway. Number 2, the absence of composure creates more damage than any bad strategy. Edward's summer plans might have been brilliant. I'll never know. Nobody could hear them over the fear. You know, when a leader loses composure, the team stops thinking about the mission and starts thinking about survival. You can recover from a bad plan. It's a lot harder to recover from a broken culture. And number 3, you don't have to be the storm to prove you're in charge. Edward thought intensity was authority. Volume was leadership. But the most powerful thing I've seen a leader do is lower their voice when everyone else is raising theirs. That's not weakness. That's the kind of strength that people actually want to follow. Composure isn't a mask you wear. It's a decision you make. And the best leaders that I've seen aren't the ones who never felt the storm. They're the ones who stood in it and said, There's a better way. And that wraps Arc 2, Pressure and Poise. 4 episodes about the tensions that live inside you, not around you. We talked about being available, but not effective, busy, but not moving, fast, but burning out. And today, calm on the outside, but chaos underneath. Here's what all 4 had in common. They were pressures that nobody could see. And the only way through them was to stop pretending that they didn't exist. Thanks for walking through them with me. Next up, we're going to shift the gears. Arc 3 is decision-making. And it starts with a tension every leader dreads. There's no clear right answer here. Leading in the fog. Clarity versus ambiguity. What do you do when the path isn't obvious, the data is incomplete, and everyone's looking to you to make the call? That's episode 9. See you there. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for spending part of your day with me, and I know your time is valuable and your to-do list is long. If this was helpful, share it with someone else who needs it. Like it, comment, leave a review. It helps more people find the show, and quite honestly, it makes me feel like I'm not just talking to myself in here. And if today's tension hit home, maybe a little too close to home, and if you're tired of being one person on Sunday and someone else on Monday, check out the Disciple Leader Apprenticeship at PrestonPoor.com. 10 weeks, 1 hour a week, one conversation at a time. No slides, no lectures, just real talk. And find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Peace out, be a rock star.